necessary pages, drop off some cash, and he'd soon be on his way to Santa Fe. He'd figure out the other details of explaining his whereabouts later. Chaz cursed. If Ross had just emailed the pages to him, it would have saved him a needless, time-consuming trip, but he'd refused. He was sticking to his usual writing tool of an IBM Selectric typewriter. And if Chaz wanted this story by Ross Biltmore, he was going to get it the way Ross Biltmore wrote them all. Single-spaced narrative style, half-inch margins, Times Roman font, size 12. Somebody else was going to have to indent the pages of dialogue, add the characters' names to the lines, and supply the scene directions. He didn't care if there was a close-up on the hero or if the location was an interior or exterior. Ross Biltmore just wrote the story. Chaz Cheston headed east toward the rising sun, the sports car throwing up pebbles and raising dust and swirls behind him. Chaz and Ross had known each other since college, rooming together the last couple of years of school, although that didn't really mean anything since Chaz was never there. By the time Ross left the university and traveled across India to study with some religious guru, Chaz, son of a famous movie director and grandson of a well-respected producer, was already working as an assistant to an assistant director in a major Hollywood production. In the beginning, Ross simply wrote term papers and essays for Chaz, but then he began taking his roommate's exams when he could. However, in 20 years, that arrangement had evolved. Ross withdrew from his classes the second semester of his junior year, but remained a resident in the luxury apartment near campus, paid for by the Cheston family. He turned out to be a gifted writer. No one at the university ever found out about the forged papers, and no one in the industry knew where Chaz Cheston came up with his brilliant ideas for movies. Only Chaz and Ross knew the man who was really the genius behind the romantic comedies and the action-packed dramas. And for 20 years, that's the way it had been for the two friends. As far as Chaz knew, Ross never minded the anonymity, the lack of recognition, and he never asked for more money than what was offered. It was a solid business arrangement, and Chaz couldn't be happier. Especially now. He made the turn on 14 and headed north. The sun was just starting to peek over the top of the Sangre de Cristos. He made the second left onto the dirt road and hit the accelerator. From this point, it was a straight shot to the house near Cedar Hill. He was still hoping to make good time. When he arrived at the entry to Ross's property, the fourth cattle guard and the second driveway off the road, he put the car in park and got out. He walked up to the gate, reached around, and slid the gate lock open, as he had been taught by Ross, and grabbed the small key he had been given from the pocket of his jacket. He opened the lock on the chain that was wrapped around the fence and the gate, yanked it through, pushed the gate, jumped back in his car, and pulled in, leaving the gate open. He hurried toward the small cabin built on the north side of a mesa. Stopping at the end of the drive, Chaz turned off the engine and waited. He looked around the house to see if any lights were on, and then got out of the car, heading to the back door. Why on earth would anyone want to live way out here? He asked himself, and shook his head as he searched around him, making sure no one else was there. Feeling confident that he was alone, he walked to the porch and searched for the folder he'd been promised. Ross had explained when Chaz called over the weekend that he was heading out of town, but that he had finished the script, and the final scenes would be left under a blanket on a rocking chair on the east side of the house. He asked that Chaz put the cash and the gate key in the sentry safe at the other end of the property. Chaz had been given the combination, and after picking up the script, he planned to drive down to the barn and drop off the bundle of cash he had zipped in his jacket pocket.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.